Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television talk show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning 2 p.m., as we get to ride home with you in the afternoon. Always such a fun ride. You can find us syndicated on television, and it is on Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast now on the newscasters. And also, we're in the radio world again. We're excited about that. WZLA, they're the big country giant here, located in South Carolina, and they are 92.9 on the dial FM. And they play the older country stuff, which is kind of like what I dig. You know, Alabama, Feels So Right and stuff like that. That's what they are. And I really do love it. So again, guys, thank you so much for letting us be part of your world. And make sure you watch their morning show or listen to the morning show there as well. It begins at 8 o'clock. I mean, really bright and early in the morning. And so going ahead and tune into that as well. But we love all of our sponsors as well. And I wanted to mention this by MyPillow.com is running some extra special. They have the towels, and they are so luxurious. I love the towels. $29.99. And that's with the promo. You guys put Donna on there, okay? So MyPillow.com under promo code Donna, D-O-N-N-A, and you get these really good deals. And also the sheets that are regular price $69.98 are only $39.98. Check them out. That's all we use. And before they became sponsors, we were using their sheets. And you go check out their fine products. Christmas is coming up, and I like to shop early. How about you, Attorney Don Brown, who is running for U.S. Senate in North Carolina? How are things in North Carolina?
Things in North Carolina are hot. We're all over the state. You didn't thinking about Christmas shopping. Ordinarily, I wait till Black Friday and then go on Amazon and try to knock it out. Then I have everything sent to my office, and my wonderful, wonderful assistant helps me get everything wrapped. So that's normally my routine, but we're getting closer to the time, aren't we?
I'm not a shopper. I'm just not. So when Phil and I got married, now my mother loves to shop. Phil's mother loves to shop. His sister, all of them. And so I said, you know what? We're going to do the girl thing. We're going to go shopping the day after Thanksgiving. And Phil knows me, okay?
Right, yeah, said,
you sure you want to do that? They believe in shopping until you drop. And I said, oh, it's just one day. I can handle it. Yeah, I couldn't handle it, Don. I just couldn't.
I'll do it on the day after Thanksgiving from the comfort of my laptop while everybody else is out there. And I guess I should do it a little earlier because now things, you can't depend on them arriving like you used to. But you did remind me we're getting into the season part of the year because it's October already. So, man, how time flies for sure.
Man, it does. Well, you know what? You're doing some great things over there. I'm hearing a lot of stuff from my friends in North Carolina, and they're digging you.
We love your friends in North Carolina, and we got to win the Senate seat. I don't believe my opponent can win the seat. I don't think he can take down Roy Cooper, and we're trying to let people see that. My opponent's propped up by some well-known names, but at the end of the day, you got to get out. You got to debate. He ducked the debate that was set just for today. Well, just this past week, October 3rd, the Onslow County Republican Party invited us to debate. I'm good to go. He don't want to debate. I don't blame him maybe for not wanting to debate, but because it might not turn out too well. But one of us is going to have to go against Cooper. And the North Carolina Republicans deserve to know who can think on their feet, who can handle the questions, who can articulate vision, who is the most conservative, or even who is conservative for that matter. And the three most beautiful words in the Constitution are "we the people," and it's up to we the people to decide. So we'll see how it pans out. We're very, very confident and very optimistic, and your friends and others are giving a lot of hope and encouragement to us, and our campaign gets boosted every day, so we're very grateful.
Absolutely. And I wanted to mention my friend Ashley in North Carolina. She lives in Charlotte, and she said that she's liking everything she's hearing about you, but she would like to know a little bit more about your background. And I said, well, I'm going to get him to fire it out. You're going to be very impressed.
Well, I grew up in eastern North Carolina, Ashley, fishing on the Albemarle Sound, the Pamlico Sound. I went fishing with my granddaddy. On the Pamlico Sound, we would use cut bait, we'd use shrimp, we'd use bloodworms to catch, spot and croaker, and we catch catfish with earthworms in the Roanoke River. And I taught my son how to fish and skin a catfish, and I grew up shooting. My granddaddy started me out on gave me a little air rifle, a little BB gun, went from there to an air rifle to a 22 to a 410 to a 12 gauge, and love guns, and I live in the Charlotte metro area, Ashley, and which might not be the most gun-friendly place, but it's kind of funny, Ashley, because I get frustrated sometimes, because these days, whenever you go on to get information from the bank or somewhere, they want to send you all kinds of confirmation codes, and they'll send one to your cell phone. And so I did one to the cell phone the other day, Ashley, and then they want to send one to my email. Well, it wasn't showing up on my email, and I called them. They said, well, it's for your protection. I said, I don't want your protection. If I wanted that, I'd ask for it. My protection is called Smith & Wesson. So I guess that's about me. I mean, not much more to say.
Yeah, but you know something?
Loves the state, loves the country.
But this is what's so odd. Okay, so we paid cash for the house when we moved. We still had to give them all this information. I don't understand that. Because we made the sale of the other house, and then we put it in the bank, and we had to go through like 10 areas of command before we could get the money out.
No, it's disconcerting. The amount of control, the amount of information is requested, the amount of control that information can lead to, and even the simplest things. So, for example, I was trying to order something on Amazon. I hadn't been on Amazon. I don't know what it was. I was trying to order one of my own books. I had a book that I wrote called, I have written several. Which one was I going to order? Kangaroo Court, the most recent one. So I was going to order it.
When I don't have it, I've got to order that. As a matter of fact, let me make a note.
We gotta send you a copy. It would look good in your bookshelf there. But anyway, so we have a publicist in our campaign, and the publicist sent me a text last night. She says, "Is Jack Smith in Kangaroo Court?" And I was pretty sure he was, but I wanted to figure out where, because I wrote the book last year, and so I said, well, I'm going to just order the book online. That way I can search every time somebody's got a question. I can tell you what page. Well, so I go on Amazon, and it'd been a while. They said, we'll send the code to your phone. So they did, and I answered the question. Then it said, no, we're going to send the code to your email. Well, it never showed up on the email. And of course, you can't call anybody. And even if you could, I wasn't going to spend 30 or 40 minutes late at night doing that. I found a copy of the book around the house. And yes, Jack Smith is written about. In fact, chapter 35 was dedicated to Jack Smith, who I think should be prosecuted, by the way, along with Fannie Willis, Alvin Bragg, and Letitia James. But just a little nugget there, how frustrating all the demand for information can be just to do something simple online these days. It's ridiculous. And
it's your own stuff.
Right.
That's just my point. Okay. Don't get it.
About ordering a copy of my own book now. I've got hard copies, but I just wanted to order the ebook so that I could quickly search if somebody had a question about who's on page what.
Yeah, crazy. Okay, let's kind of dig a little bit about your military experience, because and again, thank you for your service.
Yeah, so the total is 16 in the Navy, but 5 of those active. The rest are reserves, and I didn't, I wasn't all that active in the reserves, but left as lieutenant commander, serving in the Pentagon. That's my last duty station, and my military experience as a JAG officer all over the country really has helped with a lot of things we've been involved with afterwards. The Extortion 17 shoot down, the book we did on that. It was the helicopter that was shot down in Afghanistan with 17 members of SEAL Team 6 and 30 Americans. We did the book, and subsequent movie was done on that, and I was able to investigate that and write the book, in part because of my experience. When I was in the JAG Corps, we had an F-14 fighter jet go down, and I handled that. And of course, it was also helpful when we got involved with rules of engagement issues, working very closely with Pete Hegseth, who then at first was with Concerned Veterans of America, went to Fox, and I worked with him both at CVA and at Fox, and to help get some folks pardoned, especially Lieutenant Clint Lawrence, who had been pardoned, who had been prosecuted for a firefight in Afghanistan during the Afghan War, most ridiculous thing under Obama's rules of engagement. So Pete and I worked together, and the president pardoned him. And so my background as a JAG officer helped all that. It's really helped a lot with military affairs issues, rules of engagement issues, and other matters. So one of the big crossroads in my life was whether to stay in or get out of the Navy. And sometimes I wish I'd stayed in, but in retrospect, if I'd stayed in, I would have been court-martialed, because they would have tried to force me to take a jab. I wouldn't have done it, so I would have been kicked out. So I guess the Lord knew what he was doing when he moved upon me to get out when I got out. But anyway, I appreciate you asking. Love the Navy. Matter of fact, the birthday of the United States Navy is coming up just in a few days on October the 13th. So we're excited about that, and it's going to be a great Navy day for sure.
I wanted to mention this to you. I get a lot of my email through yahoo.com, mostly from my website, but I was just hooking it up, yahoo.com, and they have, of course, their stupid news, which is just, it's like kids playing in the sandbox outside. And they put these really weird headings up there. And they were talking about Donald Trump's daughters living extravagant. And so there was a place where you could put, you could put what your thoughts are about their article. And I did. I said, yeah, all the while, Nancy Pelosi eats her designer ice cream. So it's like, because the Trumps are wealthy, they want to pick on them for being wealthy. But I mean, how about the people who came in, they were dirt poor, and then they come in the office and now they're just like billionaires.
Well, right. Right, exactly. And it's always been selective. What's the word I'm looking for? Selective standards, depending on what the Democrats want to do. Rules for thee, but not for me. And you're correct. Look at AOC, for example. Where in the world she get all her many millions? It's crazy.
The bartender.
Right. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. That's just one example. Nancy Pelosi. Look at Joe Biden, for example. Went into office, never really has worked a job a day of his life outside of the public sector. Multi-millionaire. How's it happen? That's one of the reasons we have such corruption in government, because government apparently there's an incentive to get filthy rich, and then our elected officials become more concerned about their own power and pocketbooks than they do about the good of the people. And we see it over and over again in both parties, actually. But the Democrats certainly are hypocritical about it. Now, Trump did not make his money through politics. In fact, he's lost his money from his involvement in politics. Let me rephrase. He's lost a lot of his money through his involvement in politics, having to finance these lawsuits and everything else, and put his money in blind trust. And so, unlike, the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers and the Eric Swalwells, and you can just go right down to the AOCs, go down the list, just become wealthy because of these special interest groups that are padding their pockets. And of course, they're trading stocks in there. They get inside information, trading stocks. Nobody's stopping any of that. And it's just a corrupt cesspool. And when I go to the Senate, I'm going to fight it for sure. I've never had anything, really. I mean, I've had enough, and I'm not complaining. I've never missed a meal, praise God. But, never lived in the lap of luxury. One time I was a member of a country club. That didn't last very long. My wonderful, dear ex-wife, who I still love very much, is a tennis player. So we joined the country club so she could play tennis across the street from the club. But other than that, hey, man, I'd rather be fishing and shooting and going to the beach and lighting up a stogie and doing all that stuff for sure. The simple pleasures are the best, like they used to say. Like Van Camp's Pork and Beans used to say, simple pleasures are the best, and that's me.
Well, I'm a member of the country club. Country music is what I love.
You gotta watch. There was a show they had on a few years ago called Nashville. It was on, I think it's on Netflix now. You might like that. It's about country music stars. You gotta check it out. It gets too seedy for you. You can turn it off. But,
I'll probably turn it off in 2 minutes.
Somebody
Probably.
told me about that. But I haven't really watched too much of it. But anyway.
Ooh, look at that sun coming through. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I've got to be careful how I look.
That's right. Well, hey, it helps with the lighting when the sun comes through. Of course, the thing about it is the sun can be so bright, it can flush you out if you're not careful.
Yeah, it messes me up. It most certainly does. Let's talk a little bit more about criminal justice. Okay. I don't know anybody who would want to live in like Chicago, New York, any of those areas. And a lot of it has been headed into the smaller towns. You've heard me gripe and fuss about the town we used to live in Alabama. And the town of Albertville, Alabama is way above the national average as far as crime. And this place used to be like a Mayberry. When I was growing up, it was like, you could be out at 2:00 in the morning and not have to worry about anything. Not that I ever was. My parents were strict. But what I mean is you could literally be out at 2 in the morning and not worry.
Part of this, right. And part of the spillover, I mean, it's related to Biden's open border policy. Since he opened the border, you've had cartels coming across. You had fentanyl coming across, therefore a massive increase in the drug trafficking. And so a lot of the spillover is because Democrats basically opened the doors to increased organized crime in the United States. It used to be, when you thought of organized crime, you're thinking of the Italian mobs in New York and Chicago. Now that those mobs, to the extent they still exist, are just a little pebble in the pond compared to what we're seeing with the Mexican cartels, the Colombian cartels, and others. Some working in conjunction with in China and financed in part by the Chicoms, the Chinese. So, but a lot of it goes back to open border policies. Now, what are we going to do about it? Well, Trump shut the border. That's good. He's deporting a lot of these violent illegals, and that's good. But locally, we're going to have to deal with it there also. I would encourage all law-abiding Alabamans and South Carolinians and North Carolinians to carry a weapon. Carry a weapon, learn how to use it. It's interesting because some of the most crime-infested and crime-ridden major blue cities in the United States are the ones where you have the tightest gun control. That's because the thugs know that law-abiding citizens won't have guns and nobody's going to oppose them. So individual responsibility is one of the solutions. I've been arguing, since this poor Ukrainian girl was stabbed here in Charlotte on the light rail, that the Democrats here in North Carolina, for example, shut down. You may remember Dorothea Dix Hospital, also known as Dix Hill, major psychiatric facility that handled a lot of criminal types. Shut it down in 2012 when they totally controlled the state government. Never rebuilt it. And so I know from my own experience in practicing for 30-some years, once in a while I've run across some clients in my long history that are psych problems. And what are you going to do with them? The problem is we don't have the infrastructure to deal with them. So we're going to have to understand that criminal psychiatric long-term facilities have to be just as much a part of the criminal justice solution as long-term prisons. And of course, the death penalty has got to be a part of it too. In North Carolina, as I think I mentioned on your show and others as well, Donna, we have the death penalty on the books, but haven't carried it out since 2006. That's almost 20 years. It'll be 20 years in January. And you can't have an effective deterrent. You cannot have an effective deterrent unless there's swift and effective punishment. And when you look at the criminal justice system, we go through, I've been through criminal procedure courses, criminal law courses. I've been a prosecutor. I've done some criminal defense work, not nearly as much over the years. Usually I'll take a case if there's a constitutional question involved that's legitimate. But the point of the matter is that they say that there are several purposes of the criminal justice system. There's deterrence, there is punishment, and there is rehabilitation. The Democrats focus primarily on the notion of rehabilitation, which is easier said than done when you're talking about some of these corrupt criminals, and less on deterrence and less on punishment. And I think the criminal justice system has to focus more on punishment and more on deterrence and less on rehabilitation. The rehabilitation, and by the way, when I'm talking about long-term criminal psychiatric facilities. I'm not talking about building them to try to rehabilitate the person to get them back on the street. I'm talking about keeping them off the freaking street. Because if they're so lunatic that the judge is not going to try them, you got to get them off the street. It would have been better if the animal who murdered this Irina girl from the Ukraine here in Charlotte had been in the psych facility. He should get the death penalty. But if in a psych facility, maybe the girl would still be alive. So we got to have psychiatric facilities. We got to fund the police. It's interesting because I've been privileged to be asked to speak at two separate Charlie Kirk memorials here in North Carolina, one in Caldwell County, and before that down in Beaufort County in Washington. Little Washington, beautiful, one of the most beautiful towns in the state on the Pamlico River, not far from my hometown of Plymouth. And we had it was a beautiful setting down by the river. There's a big gazebo down there. Well, that sheriff down there, I mean, he had security that, had that security been in place in Pennsylvania, Trump would have never been shot. Had it been in place in Utah, Charlie Kirk would have never been killed. He had 3 drones. The county sheriff had 3 drones flying over the crowd. And I was there with a couple of members of North Carolina General Assembly. And because I was with them, I was surrounded by security. Nobody would give me the security. I was packing that night, if anybody has to know. But he had that thing cordoned off with snipers on the roof, with drones in the air to look for shooters on top of buildings.
Wow.
There's the Pamlico River There were 3 or 4 sheriff patrol boats going up and down the river adjacent to where we were. And we've got to put money into police resources as part of the deterrent, and not the stupid idea of counselors and shrinks on the street to talk to the criminals. The criminals just laugh at that. That's what the Democrats are pushing. But again, we gotta focus more on punishment and deterrence and less on rehabilitation in our criminal justice system to get us where we need to go to make our streets safer again.
How about if people know there are consequences behind what they do? I mean, when I was growing up, I knew there were consequences. There were things I knew I wanted to do because I knew I'd get it.
Well, no, and I'll be honest with you. This might be kind of radical, but I think we need to return to some controlled measure of corporal punishment. You know, in the schools and in the houses. You're not going to talk a kid off the ledge. Look, some liberal friends of mine, and they had this kid, and they would never spare a rod and spoil a child is biblical, but they put him over in a happy chair when they're acting up. Now let's be happy. I mean, like this going to do any good? I tell you one thing: my daddy and my grandmamas and my mama and my school teachers and the principal, they made it hurt where the sun don't shine when Don was acting up back as a kid, and that didn't mean I'm not going to act up still, but when there is a sense of dread, an innate sense of dread when somebody's doing wrong or breaking the law, it's got to start at an early age. And this liberal mentality has been where it's coalescing now into the situation you described at the beginning of this question, when we have small towns in Alabama. It used to be like Mayberry, and just idyllic places where you never had to worry about locking your door and now are turning into criminal havens. It's because of a number of factors. It's because of the way we've let our thinking institutionally go down the drain. We got to get back to the basics.
Well, it's just really crazy because actually ICE came into Albertville, Alabama, and raided a restaurant there and arrested a bunch of people. That would have been unheard of even 5 years ago. It's just, and this is what I want everybody to understand, is those situations escalate. When it starts, you can't get rid of it. It's just there.
Right. Exactly.
Folks, I want you to think about that. Now, Jake had a question for you, and this is about you're hearing all this nonsense on social media and even on the liberal news and all that kind of stuff about the government shutdown. And you're seeing all these things that they're saying, oh, grandma's not getting her Social Security and all because of the government. And so he said, well, I happen to know both my grandparents are getting their Social Security. They're getting it. So why all the outrage? What really happens during a government shutdown, Don?
Well, there's no such thing as a government shutdown. Let's be clear. Because Social Security payments are exempt from it. U.S. military payments are exempt from it. You have certain self-described non-essential agencies like the National Park Service and other things where money's cut back on. The National Endowment for the Arts. A lot of non-essential services are stopped. The payments stop. But here's the thing about it: if they're non-essential, why are on the government payroll anyway? Don, I've often joked. You and I have lived through a number of these "quote unquote" shutdowns. And this morning I had my sausage and egg muffin from McDonald's. I got it without the bread because I'm trying to cut the carbs. My coffee right here. Bought my McDonald's coffee during the shutdown. It doesn't affect us. The Democrats want to use it as political leverage. Oh, you're going to take money from Granny, blah, and they'll just make up crap. Just like Jake said, his grandmother, whoever it is, his aunt, I apologize, I forgot who he said it was, but are still getting Social Security payments. Yeah, you're not going to, because those are exempt from these quote unquote shutdowns. There's no such thing as a total government shutdown. The military is still out there. The federal highway system is working. Now you might not be able to get into a national park today, but really only a small portion of the government is not getting paid, and that portion in and of itself, you don't have to pay them. Get rid of them. I mean, I am advocating for what I call a Deep State Reduction Act, which would lead, if passed, we would reduce the federal workforce by 2/3 over a 10-year period. You get rid of a lot of those simply by retiring them out. half of them over a 10-year period retire out, cut the rest, and put that money on the savings on the national debt. I want to get rid of 2/3 of all federal agencies and apply that to reducing the national debt. So I think, the Democrats try to make a lot of hay of it and try to make you think the world's coming to an end because of a shutdown, which really isn't a shutdown. But Jake is asking all the right questions. He can see with his own eyes it's not really a shutdown at all. It's just a bunch of political poppycock. Hey, the way I feel about it is this. Congress has a budgeting responsibility. And the reason we are in the mess we are financially is because of the Congress. When you look at Donald Trump's presidency, and especially compared to Joe Biden's, one being back to back, you have probably the worst president in American history against one of the greatest back to back. And you can see how much a difference having an effective presidency can make. But here's the thing about it, Donna. It isn't the president that passes the budget. Isn't it the president that passes spending? The president can submit budgets to the Congress and ask for money to be spent, but it's up to the Congress to figure it out. And what the Congress has done is spend like a bunch of drunken sailors over the years and driven us to the verge of a fiscal cliff. And we could fall off that cliff at any day and lose the dollar. And like I'm telling my folks, what do you think they're going to replace it with? Well, there's this BRICS, consortium out there, these countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and others in addition to that want the U.S. dollar replaced. But I would tell you something. If the dollar collapses, it's not going to be the Chinese yuan. It's not going to be any other currency. The pound sterling has risen and fallen. It's not going to be the peso. It's not going to be any other currency. It won't be the euro dollar. What they're pushing for is what they call central bank digital currency. I want you to hear me now. They want the central banks to issue a digital currency. In other words, they want a cashless society. And they've got to destroy the dollar in order to do that. And so, back on point, the United States Congress should not be passing any budgets that are not balanced, should not be passing any continuing resolutions. So many times in the past, when we come up on these budget deadlines at the end of the fiscal year, they'll just pass these continuing resolutions and keep funding the government. In other words, they're funding the deep state even without a budget. I'm not going to vote for any continuing resolutions. Shut the whole freaking thing down as far as I'm concerned. Because you see, the deep state of the federal government has become a criminal enterprise. There's more criminality done within the institution of the federal government there is good at this point. That's because of this burdensome income tax system that you and I both want to end. And they're fueling these worthless governmental agencies. And they're giving tax breaks to these liberal NGOs. It needs to come crashing down. We've got to save the dollar. And they can stay shut down all year as far as I'm concerned. I'm not losing any sleep over it. That's the way I feel about it.
I'm not either, but I got to say this. You know how I am. I will see something stupid that some dumb liberal has put on Facebook or whatever, in any social media site, and I usually go, and go on. But sometimes I can't help myself. So there was something, a woman, like she weighed about 300 pounds, and she had those really long false eyelashes. To have them done, that's going to cost you about $200, right? She had tattoos all over herself. She had this thing in her nose that my granddad used to use to keep the pigs inside the fence. Those cow rings. Well, she had one of those in her nose. So what else did she do? Oh, the long fingernails that were out here. So she was on here talking about how the government shutdown has caused her not to get her food stamps and welfare. I couldn't help it. I had to say something because she said that she has 4 kids, didn't say anything about a husband. So anyway, I just had to. And I said, you know what, honey, I've been divorced before. And while I was divorced, I had to, I worked. That's how I paid the bills. That's how my son had clothes, and that's how we ate. I did not go out and get fake eyelashes. I didn't get tattooed up. I didn't get that stupid nose ring you got there. And I also didn't get the long fingernails because I couldn't afford it. I didn't even do cable. So, I mean, it's your priorities. You got right.
You wouldn't have done all that stuff even if you could have afforded it.
No, I wouldn't. I can afford it now. I don't want to. That's stupid. Every time I see somebody, if you want to wear a nose ring, go for it. But I'm just saying it because I'm from the country. And so what it reminds me of again is my granddad who kept his pigs to keep them from rooting out. He put the nose ring thing.
Yeah.
I always think that. Can't
And
get it on.
one of your friends in Charlotte asked about my background. My background does include working in the hog pens. My granddaddy had a hog pen in the back of farm, so I've done it all. So I know exactly what you're talking about with those nose rings for sure.
Absolutely. Let's go into a commercial break before I get myself into more trouble. We'll be right back in just a few minutes. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for two or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. Or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
The only place I buy my beef is Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama. Their cattle is born and raised on their ranch, grass and grain fed, and you can feel confident when you serve your family and friends because their beef is all natural and no antibiotics or hormones are added. You can buy whole beef or perhaps go in with family or friends and buy half. Their customer service is number one as they take care of the delivery to their local processor and can deliver to your home for a small added fee. They also offer herd replacement heifers. I always call Lone Tree Ranch in Collinsville, Alabama for my beef specialty recipes and cookouts, and you can too. Food shortages are increasing, so buy local by calling 256-523-6462. That's 256-523-6462. Okay, we're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Television Talk Show, where truth matters. So Phil and I were talking during the commercial break about, and I want to ask somebody who's got a nose ring. I'm not being rude. I just want to know. This is for my own information. I just want to know, when you catch a cold, what happens when you blow your nose? I know it sounds gross and grotesque and all this kind of stuff. I just wonder, does any of that ooze out of those holes? I'm just wondering. Okay, now
you and I both specifically remember they did put the rings in the snout of the hog to try to keep them from rooting so much. I'm not sure how well it worked, but that's
it worked.
I have flashbacks, if you know what I mean. So
yeah. Well, I'm sorry, it's all I can think of when it comes to that. Okay, let's talk about the economy. Let's get me off of the nose ring thing. Okay, so the economy. To me, the economy is what you make of it. Okay. So even when Biden was president, we made it just fine. Okay. Because we're self-sufficient here. And another thing, you had to plan. Could there be some sort of like government, let's take the government out of it. Could there be some kind of community organized situation where you can train people on what to do about money? Spending on stupid stuff. Like, I have friends who maybe they got a raise, and what did they spend it on? A big screen TV they couldn't afford, and they could barely pay the bills. But I'm going to go out and buy my big screen.
Well, and you're making a very good point, a very good suggestion, Donna. And, I think I mentioned to you before that I have told my friends in the North Carolina General Assembly they should mandate the teaching of the U.S. Constitution in North Carolina public schools from grades K to 12. Learning the Federalist Papers, memorizing it from an original intent standpoint, so we know who we are as a nation. But what you're saying is equally important in many ways. Why not teach budgeting K to 12? I mean, think how much that would help. It would help if kids understood their direct consequences to overspending and running up money on credit cards, and understood about savings, understood something I wish I learned 40 years ago, the rule of 72, which is, you put money in and when it'll compound, the power of compound interest with regard to savings. These are lessons that are not taught that should be taught. It would make us better as a country, because I think the more personal savings Americans have, the freer we are. The more it's spendable, disposable income, will we use that income or not, the freer we are, because we have options. And I think you're onto something. I think it ought to be taught in public schools. I think it ought to be taught in community colleges, and private and Christian schools also should be teaching budgeting. And I think, I was involved in the homeschooling movement for a while. 2 of my 3 kids were homeschooled for a while, and I've lectured at homeschool, conventions. And a lot of times what you'll see with homeschool parents, they'll take the kids out shopping, make them do grocery lists, and actually teach them hands-on in some cases, depending on the parent and depending on what their objectives are. But those are life lessons that need to be learned early on and sooner rather than later. I think we would see a dramatic decrease in the number of bankruptcies in this country if we were to teach basic common sense financial planning and budgeting early on. There's no reason why we shouldn't be doing it.
Well, there's a simple thing you can do with house payments, and my son and daughter-in-law did this. Okay, they had the house pay. They went on a 30-year loan, which freaked me out. But I didn't say anything to them with the nosy mother-in-law, so I didn't say a word. But I was like, "Oh my God, they're doing a 30-year loan." Winds up being the smartest thing you could have done, because this is what they did. So they set a goal. They wanted the house paid off in 10 years before their 10th wedding anniversary, and they did it. And this is how they did it. They went on ahead. They paid extra on the house. If you only pay $100 a month extra, you are shaving off years off of the interest off of your house payment. So they buy this really nice townhouse, and this is back, before the economy went completely berserk. while Obama was president. And so they bought this for around $100,000. Well, now it's worth $300,000, but they shaved off $100,000 off of interest payments. Yeah. What people don't understand, what they're not taught in school, is you buy something, say, for $100,000, just for easy math. By the time you pay those high interest penalties, any of those things, you don't pay anything extra towards that house payment. You paid over $100,000 extra, more than double what you thought you bought it for. That's not being taught, Don.
Right. No, right. I mean, that's very wise planning to prepay like that. And of course, you start building. Not only do you avoid the interest payments, but you start building the equity very rapidly. Yeah, but those are little secrets that could be taught if we were, teaching basic financial planning in the schools. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to teach math. And by the way, we got to be better about our math teaching. I've mentioned before, Common Core, they tried to dumb down our K-12 math, ending with pre-calculus rather than calculus. We got to step up our mathematics teaching. But the basic teaching of mathematics is related to, but not actually the same as the basic teaching of financial planning and budgeting, because a lot of that's hands-on, and a lot of it's more practical than theoretical. So you got to have math skills to do it, but it's a whole different area. And I think your suggestion is spot on, and that's something that one of the many things we need to be doing to adjust our overall educational philosophy in this country is teaching financial planning early on.
Well, I think it's extremely important. We didn't have big plantations. My family, I mean, we were dirt poor. My family worked out in the cotton fields just like everybody else did, but they got smart with it. I mean, that what little bit they had, they learned what they could do with it. And we just need to teach that. People give up too easy, and it's because, well, the government will take care of you. And this is what I think would happen if something happened. I think the first people that they would turn against, and I'm talking about Democrats and some rhinos, the first people they would turn against would be these poor people who are living off of welfare and food stamps. They would be the first ones to go. They would be the first ones to crash. And I mean, I believe that with all my heart.
Agreed. They'll be considered most expendable, and absolutely agree with that. The establishment is trying to, use the welfare state now as a means of preserving power. They think if you give them goodies, Obama phones, and all types of welfare benefits, they're going to vote Democrat. But when push comes to shove, they will be the first to go. I agree with you, Donna.
Absolutely. Which brings me to fair tax. You know how I am about fair tax. I'm a huge cheerleader for that. And that was a question that was brought by Michelle about family farms and paying taxes on it. Maybe the parents die, the kids are left up what to do with the farm or what to do with the house, because they don't want to have to pay the taxes, the hereditary taxes that are due.
Well, it's interesting because the question brings into light the competing responsibilities and roles of both state and federal governments. I'm opposed to allowing communist entities from communist nations such as communist China purchasing any land at all in the United States. And I favor that, to block those types of purchases in North Carolina. Those purchases should not take place around military installations like Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune and Cherry Point, Seymour Johnson, or other areas of critical infrastructure. And so I think that by eliminating the foreign competition coming here and buying our land, that's going to help family farmers. That's one thing that has to happen. It will not only help us from a national security standpoint, but it will help federal help our American farmers and our North Carolina farmers. The other thing, though, is, you're talking about fair tax. You and I favor something to eliminate the federal income tax altogether. And the fair tax is one way of doing that. But when we're talking about, we're talking about property taxes, a lot of those, there's a combination of state and federal there, but property taxes need to be reduced and eliminated as well, if you ask me. Because if you have to pay property tax on your own property, then the state really owns the property. And so this has been a deterrent to the preservation of a lot of these family farms, simply because the farm may not be active when it's inherited, or maybe one generation is farming, the next generation doesn't want to farm. You've got to farm it to make it productive. And so they'll either lose it or sell it. And a lot of times, unfortunately, when those properties are being lost or sold, you wind up with commercial development there. And I'll tell you, we've been in the battle, and I've been in the battle defending our North Carolina commercial shrimpers in the 19 eastern counties along the seaboard, where certain members of the state legislature wanted to shut the business down. You can't shut down our shrimping industry. It is crucial not only to the way of life for those shrimpers, but if you go above and beyond that, domestic food production is a matter of national security. And then recently, within the last couple of months, while this battle was raging, word came to us that we had received, I think Walmart was purchasing some of this, correct me if I'm wrong, but foreign shrimp from Indonesia was shipped into the United States and was found to be radioactive. Radioactive. So first of all, why are we bringing in foreign shrimp or any other foreign goods? Our domestic food production has to be encouraged here in the United States. We can't get to a situation where we're destroying family farms and then bringing in cheap food from Indonesia or Africa or Asia or South America, on container ships. We have to produce our own food. It's a matter of national security, just like domestic industrial production is a matter of national security. So to the question about family farms, we have to understand these broader picture concerns mean that we've got to do everything we can to preserve those farms. And I like small farms, just like I like small business. America was built on small business, small farms, neighbor helping neighbor, not on monolithic conglomerates. Right now, you've got about 4 or 5 major mega conglomerates in the agricultural industry, including Monsanto and others, that are dominating and pushing our local farmers out. And so not only would I favor a prohibition of foreign entities purchasing our farmland, but I also favor antitrust to bust these big conglomerates up. Antitrust has been a good thing all throughout our history since its inception in 1898 with the Sherman Antitrust Act. I mean, you look, like I've told you this before, I've got my little cell phone here, Donna, and my son was in Afghanistan and in Germany, and I could pick up the phone and do a Facebook Live or whatever. It doesn't cost me a dime other than just what I'm paying for the monthly service. If that had been 50 years ago, it would have cost me hundreds of dollars to do that. First of all, I wouldn't have had the technology to do face-to-face live like you and I are doing now on this interview. But it was busting up Ma Bell that did two things. The one, it created smaller telecommunications companies where they pushed hard for improved technology. The rising tide floats all boats. So you have improved technology and costs being lowered. And it's the same thing in agriculture. We can't have 4 or 5 monolithic giants. We need to bust those up so that small family farms have a chance again. And I will favor that and push those policies in the United States Senate.
Well, let's just do simple math, okay? This is like Donna going to Friendship Elementary School in Oxford, Alabama. Okay, so it's this simple. We're going to use simple numbers. So let's just say the family farm is worth, say, $500,000. The parents die, and it leaves 4 kids. Okay, and they're like, what can I do? Because I'm going to have inheritance tax, and let's just say it's only 10%. Okay, that's $50,000 off the price of that farm. The kids are going to have to figure out what to do. Okay, now if I inherit, if we sell it, well, then we're going to have to pay more taxes on selling it. Not only the $50,000, but more taxes on selling it. They're going to wind up with nothing. It's going to go to the government so they can waste it on stupid projects. Like why the cows have gas.
You're right. Well, that's why you have to end the property tax scheme in the United States. It's got to go. I mean, it's a threat. It's a threat to almighty government, but it's got to go. It's got to go. It's got to be eliminated down to the point that doesn't go altogether, that it's manageable for people. Otherwise, it's simply punishing. The government wants to discourage what we call the intergenerational transfer of wealth. Because if you have the intergenerational transfer of wealth, sometimes that wealth grows and grows and grows. And wealthy individuals and middle class are a threat to governmental power. Why is that? Because we can speak up. We've got the means to speak up. We've got the means to get our communication across. So that threatens those in power. So understand that this taxation system is designed to bust up the intergenerational transfer of wealth. And that's why it's got to come to an end. And it's a combination of both state policy and federal policy. You got local and federal taxes that are attacking landowners, and they've got to come to an end. We've got to have major reform in our tax policy, both income tax and property tax and every other type of tax you can think of. But taxation has to be whittled down to the point that folks can own property and not have to lose property simply because the government's demanding that they pay.
Well, what we had to use our imaginations about this. So nobody wanted our family farm. Nobody. My brother didn't want it. My sister didn't want it. I wanted it. So what we decided to do was buy the family farm. And yes, I bought my inheritance, hoping eventually it would pay off. And it did eventually pay off. But this kept us from paying taxes over taxes over taxes in case something happened, where, we didn't want to see the government get it all. And I want to talk to my North Carolina friends. Okay, I really want you to listen to me on this. Okay, this is about the fair tax, and Don's got your back on this. Okay, so I really, really want you to think about it, about fair tax and what it can do for you and for your family, for your future family. Another thing I like about fair tax is it actually keeps families together. You and I've talked about Captain and Tennille from my era, love will keep us together and all that stuff. And so they love each other, but you know what they did? They divorced. And the reason they divorced, so they could keep their fortunes. That's why they weren't never living together. Well, that's not God's way. They're still living together, even though they were married for 30-something years. The point is they felt they needed to do that. Well, another thing I love about fair tax is the prebate system, the way that works. And the way the prebate system works is if, let's say, Phil and I, we're together, we each get this particular amount of money put in a prebate, like a debit card or something like that you can use, and it pays up to a certain amount of taxes on what you spend. And really, you're not even spending taxes, but it's paying up to a certain amount, and that includes your kids. And for the folks that say, well, what about my same-sex partner? It even applies to that. So it's not discriminating you at all if you're same-sex marriage. Okay, so 2 people head of the household, and then you've got the kids that all sprinkled down there. And another thing this does is helps American citizens. You don't get the rebate unless you are a citizen of the United States.
Right. Well, it's America First. It's part of an America First policy. And the greatest thing about fair tax is it's going to end the IRS. It's going to end the requirement for us to fill out these onerous 1040s. I've got one I've got to fill out here. We're coming up on my extension on the 15th. No one should be forced to do that. Fair tax will eliminate that. It'll eliminate the Internal Revenue Services that is currently used to go after American citizens. And it will allow us to control what we pay in taxes based on what we spend. Not on what we make. The current tax system is punitive because it punishes you based on what you make. It gives a disincentive to make more and more because they're going to take more and more. The whole notion that people should pay according to what they make is ridiculous. You shouldn't be punished and have to pay more than somebody who's making 1/2 or 1/3 of what you are, simply because you worked harder. And so the fair tax would equalize all that. And it would give the government more than enough money to operate. Of course, the government's going to have to slim down. We're going to have to eliminate agencies, and that's going to have to go hand in hand with tax reform. We have to understand we got to take the government down, not continue to build it up or create more agencies. We got to reduce agencies. But between fair tax and tariff, this country will have more money than we know what to do with. And the other thing is, if you eliminate the income tax, especially the corporate income tax, you're going to bring industry back into this country. And industry that's left and run because of the oppressive tax system and regulation system. So it's a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, you can't lose there. And another thing is this encourages folks to save money. Now, if you're like me, you're a spendthrift, okay? You want to save every dime you possibly can. I know it's just my nature. I make a game out of it. But anyway, if you want to save that money, you can. It's going to give you more opportunity to do that. If you want to blow it and spend it, well, then you can do that as well. It's up to you, whatever you want to do in your household, and it all works. And let me say this also, folks, in North Carolina, all my friends out there, okay, you need to ask all the candidates what their thoughts are about fair tax. If they brush you off, don't vote for them, okay? They're part of the establishment. They're part of the problem.
Yeah, and I've been arguing, and I continue to argue this, even against my opponent here, that status quo Republicanism will not get the job done. Mm-hmm. Status quo Republicanism is keeping the federal income tax system we got, continuing to vote for these continuing resolutions, continuing to drive the national debt up, not taking a meaningful effort to attack the problem. We got to have major changes in our systems, and we got to have major changes in the tax system that allows for more freedom, allows us to make more and to keep more, and forces the government to slim down. And fair tax is one of the greatest proposals out there to accomplish that. Because again, remember, let's go back. It will eliminate the Internal Revenue Service. It will eliminate the direct income tax based upon what we make. It will let us control what we pay in taxes based on what we spend. Nobody can force us to pay anything if we don't buy anything. And by the way, we can buy stuff on the secondary market and still go to the flea market or the gun show, and we're not subject to any tax on those purchases at all. So it is a win-win situation. Governor Huckabee, now Ambassador Huckabee, has been right on mark. And I agree with you, Don. I asked Republican candidates about it. If they blow it off, or if they say flat tax, well, flat tax is better than what you got. But the problem with the flat tax, it is still based on your income, and you still have direct forced involvement with the federal government. Fair tax is far superior, and that's the direction we ought to go.
And I'm going to tell you, small business owners, you will flourish when this happens. And let me tell you a couple of reasons why. First of all, you've got the best customer service. People call you, they're not put on hold for 40 minutes. Okay, and they can actually talk to a direct person, which is extremely important, especially in the restaurant and retail business. So that's all awesome. Plus, you're going to be able to spend your time running your business. Right. I mean, you're not going to know what to do with all the extra time you have. I just remember what it was like when Bill and I owned those 8 Nextel stores. We had no time for anything. Okay, 2 minutes left in this segment. What do you want to tell everybody before you go?
Well, I think that we are in this country in what I call the eye of the storm of a hurricane. And, President Trump came into office January 20th, and by the force of his personality has pushed the Democrats back. We came very, very close to falling off a ledge. We would have been in a tyrannical state if the Democrats stolen the election again. But we got to remember, we have something in the Constitution called the 22nd Amendment. Donald J. Trump will be leaving office in January of 2029. How are we planning for the battle in the 4 years after Trump leaves office? Now's the time we have to determine that we're going to send warriors into the Senate, warriors into the Congress, and not just the Senate and the Congress, but every level of government at every stage. The state houses, the state senates, county commission, city council meetings, school boards. We've got to send conservative warriors who love freedom and who hate big government into those offices, who have the courage to make a change and make a difference. And it will lead to this country becoming freer again and the torch of liberty burning brightly. And if elected to the United States Senate, I will champion that fight on the floor of the Senate and on the floors of the Congress. We appreciate the support, everyone. Brown4NC.com is our website. Please come on board. That's brown4fornc.com. Help us out. Take a contribution if we can get it. We'll take your suggestions. We'll take your help. Any help you can give us, we're going to win this race.
Absolutely. And I wanted to say one more thing about fair tax. All of you friends out there in all 50 states, okay, the first state to get it is going to be the one that gets all the new businesses coming in. So you better hurry up. You need to be thinking about this, because when Don Brown gets this installed in North Carolina, they're going to be the mega of industry coming in. That's just the way it is. That's the way it's going to work. The first one to do it's going to wind up with all the businesses. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Don, for being with us. I know you're busy out on the road, and I just appreciate time that I get to spend with you. And thank you guys so much for watching. Continue sending emails. North Carolina, keep sending them in. We appreciate it. Donna at donnasedge.com. Donna at donnasedge.com. I love you, North Carolina. I always will. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.